हेलो स्टूडेंट्स आज आम नवम श्रेणी इंग्राजी पुस्तकर द प्राइसलेस गिफ्ट विषय समस्त क्वेश्चन एंड आंसर करवा। क्वेश्चन 1 व्हाट डिड द राइटर एक्सपीरियंस इन द रेस्टोरेंट? The writer felt that the restaurant was very crowded and lots of people were eating and drinking there. He found some of the chairs and tables had been pushed into a corner. Question 2 what did he notice there? He noticed there a very young girl giving him a sad look. Question 3 what was the writer's first impression of the girl? The writer had the first impression that the girl was rather unhappy. Question 4 what made the writer surprised? The girl asking the cashier in a low voice whether he was an Indian and her looking at him once more while going out made the writer surprised. Question 5 what did he ask the waiter? He asked the waiter whether he knew the girl who was inquiring about him. What was his reply? The waiter replied that he did not know the girl. However, he had noticed her having lunch in the restaurant on Saturdays. She came on a day only. Where did the writer go on the next Saturday? On the next Saturday, the writer went to the very same restaurant where he had met the girl. Why did he take the chair opposite hers? He took the chair opposite hers because he wanted to introduce himself to and her and start a conversation. What query did the girl make about the writer? The query that the girl made about the writer was whether he was an Indian. What impression did the writer have of the family of the girl? As to the family of the girl, the writer came to know that her brother, who was working in India, was a soldier and he was her only guardian. Her mother was greatly worried about him as she had not heard from him for a long time. How was the writer treated at Maggie House? Who was there to welcome him? The writer was treated cordially and energy. There was Maggie's mother to welcome him. What was Mrs. Betty doing when the writer met her? Why was she unwilling to go for a handshake? When the writer met Mrs. Betty, she was making cakes in the kitchen. She was unwilling to go for a handshake as her hands were covered with flour. Why did the girls usually visit the restaurant on Saturday? The girl usually visited the restaurant on Saturday because Saturday was the payday and on this day she could afford to spend some money on a meal at a restaurant. What did Mrs. Betty believe about the ring? Mrs. Betty believed that the ring was a miraculous thing in which one could see the past and the future. She also believed that if one concentrated on a distant person while gazing into it, one would be able to see him and what he was doing. What made the author tell a lie about the ring? Maggie's fervent request to the author to look into the crystal and tell Mrs. Betty that Frankie was all right and alive made him tell a lie about the ring. Did the telling of a lie benefit Mrs. Betty? Yes, it did, since tears of happiness welled up Mrs. Betty's eyes and she soon recovered from her illness. Why did the writer feel guilty about himself? The writer felt guilty about himself because he had told a lie to Mrs. Pathy about her son being well and alive even though Frankie had been killed in the fighting on the frontier. What was Maggie's gift to the writer? Maggie's gift to the writer was a shilling which she had earned with so much toil. Why was it a precious gift? The shilling was a precious gift because the poor little girl had earned it with so much toil and it meant a huge sacrifice to her. Moreover, the joy of making such a gift was beyond all price. Did Maggie love her brother dearly? Give reasons. Maggie had earned the shilling which she gifted to the writer with so much toil. She had great joy in making the offer for the sake of her brother, who was no more. She had great relief that with the shilling the writer would buy flowers and put them on her brother's grave. This bears ample testimony of Maggie's deep love for her brother.